own post-tournament picks as well today. It is our Club World Cup review. These are the ratings. We've been a bit measly, Shaka, myself and Stevie. However, Jan, you rated it highest with an 8 out of 10. Tell us why.
But yeah, I will tell you why. But first of all, I know that you're sitting there, you've got influence for Craig Burley. So I understand that they will go low when they do that. No, the reason I went that high is that we have to take different perspective on a Club World Cup. As a tournament, to have the crowd, having some good games. Yes, some of the games I couldn't go. It was middle of the night here in Europe, so I couldn't see them. But there were some very good games. The tournaments were okay. It was okay. There were some great games at the end, with a surprise winner in Chelsea Football Club now being the best club in the world, and all that. It's okay. But I mean, the reason I didn't give them 10 of 10, boys and girls in the studio, is that I think that it's too much for the players. I think this tournament will show now when coming to November, December. I think that some of these players playing for the team. I saw Erling Haaland had 62 games last season, and he was out for some games. So there are some great numbers coming up in terms of injuries. But all in all, being a tournament that was supposed to make a new thing, I think that not so bad.
Yeah, so obviously Jan only cares about player welfare, 2 out of 10 by his ratings there.
Don Hutchinson, what are you talking about?
why are we mixed here?
Well, I have to say, I thought I was kind of toying around 6.5 for this tournament for a couple of reasons. I thought early on, it really surprised me. The turnout of the Brazilians, well, the South Americans just in general. Their fans come out to the stadiums, I thought made for an incredible atmosphere. But just kind of given the number of teams in the tournament, while that initial, and I was a huge skeptic before the tournament, my initial impressions couldn't have contrasted more with what I was expecting. It just started to drag on a bit, and that's not a criticism maybe of the team, certainly not of the South American fans, but just how many games there were, how many teams there were to try to keep across of, and I thought that was the most difficult thing with the tournament. The other aspect that I really did not like, and I know we'll get to it, is the allocation of the monies. And while it was a huge purse, clubs were compensated or guaranteed compensation before the tournament, depending on their commercial prowess or however it was phrased. But to me, that was, again, just regardless of how well or not you performed, the rich getting richer. And in a tournament like this, I would hope that it wouldn't just be a case of clubs like Real Madrid, regardless of how far they go in the tournament, are guaranteed to make more than everybody else. That, for me, I thought detracted from the tournament on the whole.
Well, let's get to our biggest surprises, because 3 of us agree with Chelsea. However, Stevie, you've gone for Al Hilal.
And in the end, as good as City were at the beginning of the game, by the end, Hilal deserved to get the victory.
Probably the game of the tournament, that right, Jan? Al Hilal against Manchester City, if you were to take away the final on Chelsea's point of things.
Yeah, it was a great game, and I've been following a bit Saudi Liga, because I think we just have to follow to see what's going on there. And of course, it was surprised that they beat Manchester City. It wasn't Manchester City who seemed to make it serious, maybe save a season to say we're the best club in the world. And you can just imagine what Real Madrid and Manchester City would have said if they won this tournament. But yes, I go with that. Al Hilal, that was a surprise. But they're good. I think they're more organized. Maybe that it is us also underestimate the knowledge of a lot of the coaches who've gone to Saudi Arabia, because we talked a lot about the players going there. But you have, for example, a guy like Jaisley. I remember him. He was at Red Bull Salzburg in the Champions League. He went there. He won the Champions League, I think, with his cloud down there. So you see that more and more knowledge coming in different positions, not only big time players with big time wages.
Yes, okay, so let's get to our best moment. We've all gone for different things here. Jan's gone for Cole Palmer's performance against PSG, Xhaka Chelsea's performance overall against PSG, myself, the fans that did turn up.
I thought that was really a breath of fresh air that tournament needed early on, and maybe gave the tournament the momentum it needed to give the number of games. So maybe I kind of underscored how important that was, because had those early games kind of fizzled without those South American fans, who knows what our overarching opinion would have been of this tournament.
However, Stevie, you've gone for the final whistle
Yeah.
in the final.
Yeah, because I just couldn't be convinced that this was a bona fide tournament. I mean, look, 3 teams that were in it: PSG, City, and Real Madrid. Right? If the bookies had the top 6, if this was a proper tournament with everybody that should have been there, the top 6, half of them were missing. Arsenal, Liverpool, I'm missing one.
Barcelona.
So the fact that they're not in this, I just couldn't take it seriously. Another thing that annoyed me is the fact that they laid turf on or grass fields on top of turf. It changes the game. That's not how these teams play. Regardless of what country they're in, that's not how they play the game.
So you're
and the only reason Chelsea won, by the way, is because of the field.
So
Because you keep banging those balls, knowing the ball would stay in bounds and wouldn't go outside. I mean, I couldn't take it seriously enough to think that this was a
You're combining two that you just hate Chelsea. You're combining two of
That's not true. I don't hate Chelsea.
What's wrong with our studio? We're so against Chelsea Football Club.
I know.
They are the best club
But
in the world.
when he said final
take it
whistle,
easy.
Jan, again, final whistle, I thought he meant because of all the drama at the end of the final whistle.
No.
I thought he meant at the end of the tournament, no more.
Oh, you're miserable.
No more.
Miserable.
But
on,
I
Jan.
like Steve. I like Steve's arguments there, because the final whistle, remember, this is a Club World Cup. Luis Enrique, he is the nicest, most charismatic, most well-behaved, polite man in the history of football. He's been sold now the last 6 months, winning the Champions League. And then he uses the Club World Cup final to just lose it. I mean, so I do understand. That was a fantastic moment. Seeing Luis Enrique being like Ivan the Terrible there after the game was unbelievable. And I understand it. But I think that, Stevie, and we know that, I mean, when you get into this modus, yes, the teams were not there to call it the best club or the World Cup, of course, but still you see the competitiveness and they wanted to win. And I think I saw, what did I see now? There was some evaluation, they are going to evaluate the performance of the PSG players in the Club World Cup final to see who they're going to go for the next season. I mean, these are the reigning Champions League winners, by the way.
All right, let's get to our worst moments, even though Stevie's already listed off at least 10 of his. Jan, player exhaustion next season. So, Jan, you can explain yours in a minute because it still hasn't happened yet. Xhaka, Auckland conceding 10 on Musiala's injury. For me, the pitch conditions, and for Stevie, the 2-hour delay. Explain yours to us, Jan, because it hasn't happened yet.
No, I'm not sure that will happen either before November, December. And mind you, the English teams, they don't even have the winter break. So this is the serious stuff of it, because there is a need to be to do the calendar of football is very, very hard. And then when you put another tournament in, a lot of these players will now play till they will have 2 or 3 weeks off. They will come in with a small pre-season now for the next season. The most of these boys will play in the World Cup next season or next summer again. So this is not good, and we have to find a solution there. And when you see FIFPro, who is the players' organization and look after the welfare, they weren't even invited to the table to discuss these kind of things. We have to stop that, because this is a players' welfare. Yes, the show must go on, and yes, go out there. Yes, you earn a lot of money. I can just hear all the points that's been said, but the players' welfare can be a big, big problem. I'm not sure how we solve that, because FIFA, UEFA, and the other federations will always fight for their money, their time in the limelight. But we have to at least get the players on the table to have the representatives discussing it.
Okay, the last segment that we put together for you, the last topic bar, was one thing we would change for the next edition. Jan says more sensible qualifying process. Shaka says reduce the amount of teams. For myself, player welfare. And Stevie says go back to the original format. Jan, a more sensible qualifying process. Tell us more.
Yes, I think that you accept the World Cup, there is a qualification. You accept that the hosts should be at the tournament. But the rest of the teams, they are qualified, they are ranked team, we have seeding, we have all those kind of things. We didn't have that this season. I mean, I'm a big fan of Messi, I'm a big fan of Inter Miami, but suddenly they qualified for some kind of rule that nobody understood. There were teams like Stevie was talking about, they should be, if you have the Club World Cup and you have the best teams in the world, you have to have the best teams in the world there. And there are, yes, I know, and I've spoken on social media with different Chelsea supporters. Now they have the ranking from 2 or 3 years back, but that is not. I think for a tournament to stick, you have to have a process of how you qualify that everybody understand. Should that be groups? No, that is difficult, but we can't do the same with the national team. So there must be some kind of ranking. But I think that the champions of England or the top 3, 4 in England should be there. I think if you have a team if you have Real Madrid there, you have to have Barcelona there. I mean, simple things like that for people to understand why the different teams are there. Red Bull Salzburg was there. Liverpool went there.
Yes, back to the original format. The good news for you, Stevie, is that will be the case this winter. It will be back to its original format, and I know that's something you'll be really looking forward to.
Yeah. Well, I don't like the original format either, but there's no way that FIFA are not going to have some sort of competition, to keep them face on the map and to make some money. And the way it was, having it in and around Christmas, the bigger sides would play 2 games. That would be the ideal scenario now, because the biggest thing for me is about the players now. And in Jan's answer, he had at the end, we don't know what's going to come this season with all the players that did play in this tournament, because it's an unknown. But I can guarantee there'll be a lot of players not at their best, and come the World Cup next year, goodness only knows how many players are going to drop out. But we don't know, because it's never happened before. But it won't be good. That's the only thing I'll probably guarantee you.
Right then, Blues. We need to have a proper chat about what's been happening in the media lately. And frankly, it's got my blood boiling. You've probably seen the absolute state of some pundits and their so-called analysis of the Club World Cup, haven't you? Well, buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you will have you shaking your head in disbelief. So there's this panel of so-called experts on ESPN, right? And they're sat there doing their little Club World Cup review, giving it ratings out of 10. Now, here's where it gets interesting. And by interesting, I mean absolutely ridiculous. Most of them are giving it measly scores, moaning about this and that. But the moment our boys lift the trophy and become the best club in the world, suddenly the tournament's not worth celebrating anymore. Before we dive deeper into this madness, if you're loving this content and want to stay updated on all things Chelsea, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We're here every day bringing you the truth that the mainstream media won't tell you about our brilliant Blues. Now, let's talk about Steve Nicol, shall we? This fella's gone and said his favorite part of the Club World Cup was when it was over. Can you believe that? The cheek of it. Here we are, Chelsea Football Club, conquering the world, showing everyone what proper football looks like, and this man's sitting there saying he couldn't wait for it to end. His reasoning, he reckons it wasn't a bona fide tournament because Arsenal, Liverpool, and Barcelona weren't there. Well, Steve, maybe if those clubs had done their job properly in European competition, they would have been there, wouldn't they? But it gets worse, Blues. This same pundit has the audacity to claim that Chelsea only won because of the pitch conditions. He's banging on about how they laid grass on top of turf, saying it changed the game, and that's the only reason we lifted the trophy. Absolute nonsense! As if our lads needed special conditions to show their class. Cole Palmer tearing PSG apart, our defense standing firm when it mattered most. That's not down to the pitch, that's down to quality, pure and simple. What really winds me up is the double standards here. When City or Real Madrid win tournaments, these same pundits are falling over themselves to praise the achievement. But when Chelsea do it, suddenly the competition doesn't count, the format's wrong, or the pitch conditions helped us. It's the same old story we've heard for years. They can't stand seeing our club succeed. The funniest bit is when they start discussing the best moments of the tournament. One of them actually said the final whistle was his highlight. Not because of the drama, but because the whole thing was finally over. Meanwhile, they grudgingly admit that Cole Palmer's performance against PSG was exceptional, but you can hear the reluctance in their voices. They don't want to give our boy the credit he deserves. And don't get me started on their complaints about player welfare and too many games. Where was this concern when other competitions were adding extra fixtures? It's only now when Chelsea have gone and won the whole thing that they're suddenly worried about the calendar being too packed. The truth is, Blues, they can't handle the fact that we've done what we always do. Rise to the occasion when it matters most. We've beaten the European champions, we've shown the world what Chelsea Football Club is all about, and we've brought home the trophy that makes us officially the best club on the planet. So while these miserable pundits are sat there trying to diminish our achievement, remember this. We are the Club World Cup winners. We are the best team in the world, and no amount of bitter commentary can change that fact. Keep your heads high, Blues, because this is our moment and we've earned every second of it.